Imagine, if you can, a chaotic time in America. Urban centers undergo mass demonstrations and protests.
Meanwhile, it's like deja vu. Today, millions are expected to hit the streets in all 50 states as part of the anti-Trump.
Rural communities suffer as farms struggle to adapt to a changing climate.
To Iowa, they are currently predicting a 24% decrease in farm income for next year.
Random shootings occur with seemingly no motive whatsoever.
Welcome back. Investigators on both sides of the country are working to understand Monday's mass shooting here in New York City.
Amid all this chaos, the American people stand up and look for answers. And in that search, we found things that challenged the notion of what made us Americans to begin with.
The kids are getting radical. Among Americans 18 to 34, socialism is viewed more positively than capitalism.
The year is 1949, and Arthur Miller has just premiered Death of a Salesman. Considered a quintessential American tragedy, this play follows the Loman family, particularly the patriarch Willie, a down-on-his-luck traveling salesman. Throughout the story, Willie Loman suffers delusions about he and his son's abilities and accomplishments. He chases a higher status life for he and his family, like all ambitious Americans do. However, that chase ends in failure, and upon reckoning with that failure, he commits suicide in the hopes of securing his family's future via a life insurance policy. Upon its release in February of 1949, it was an instant success. In the decades since its premiere, it has been upheld as a great American text, and critical analysis popularly describes it as a biting critique on the idea of the American dream. So what does the American dream mean anyway?
This idea, but define the American dream for us. The most important idea that the United States has contributed to the world, which is that citizens of every rank can expect to have a better, richer, happier life.
While not eliminating social class like, say, Marxist societies would attempt to do in the 20th century, America viewed its social classes as fluid compared to more rigidly enforced strata like the English society that originally colonized America. It's what we imagine the Founding Fathers meant when they included all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence. However, you'll find no mention of the American dream by name in the Declaration of Independence, nor in the Constitution. In fact, no founding father used this phrase at all, because it wouldn't exist for another 150 years. So where did it come from? It came from James Truslow Adams, descended from the Truslow family on his mother's side, one of the first English families to settle New York City. After making his fortune in finance as a partner of the New York Stock Exchange, Mr. Adams pivoted to nonfiction writing, and it's in his 1931 history book, The Epic of America, does the first appearance of that enigmatic American dream feature in print. Not as a romantic ideal birthed by the founders of a young nation, but as a tagline from a pop history book written in the middle of the Great Depression by a trust fund kid who retired from Wall Street at the age of 34.
We're going to talk about inequality and opportunity in America. Let's start.
Is the American dream dead? Well, a new survey of small business owners.
Maybe we've outgrown the American dream. Some people say it's because we're not working hard enough. Either way, it's not looking too good for the believers out there. It's no longer expected that you'll move on to greater things than your parents did. Suddenly, the next generation doesn't seem like such a safe investment anymore. Studies show it's a gamble, and the house is winning. Which is odd, because that's exactly how Biff, Willie, and the Loman family at large felt all the way back in 1949. And in that case, it's no wonder the play was so groundbreaking from its very inception. Death of a Salesman must have been introducing so many new ideas to its audience, making them think things about American identity, their families, even their own thoughts, desires, and dreams. I mean, the audience must have had no idea what to think upon leaving the theater, right? Well, With all due respect to Death of a Salesman, however, that doesn't really appear to be the case. While Death of a Salesman's impact on our culture is indisputable, many reviews from the 1949 premiere noticed this perspective on America right away. The New York World Telegram described it as a fervent query into the great American competitive dream of success. And New York Times drama critic Bruce Atkinson went a step further in describing the American public as starved for plays with this type of message, writing, "Mr. Miller has looked with compassion into the hearts of some ordinary Americans and quietly transferred their hope and anguish to the theater." The implication there clearly being that these aren't new, exotic ideas. These are things that common, regular American people have been thinking about and struggling with this entire time. So, what does all this say about the American dream and the criticism it seems to be under? Well, if Death of a Salesman has taught me anything, it's that this criticism of the American dream is not recent. It's not something just young people or recent generations struggle with. In fact, the American dream had existed in print for less than 20 years when Death of a Salesman was written. When New York Times critic Brooks Atkinson, as previously stated, wrote that Arthur Miller looked at the common man and had, quote, transferred their hopes and anguish to the theater, unquote, was he referring to a society that had lost faith in the American dream, or one that never believed in it at all?
The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.